Hello, and welcome to another episode of Tech Tuesday presented by Delta Media Group, where we have been racking our brains trying to figure it out, and for the life of us, we don't understand how they got like 800 different dinosaurs' DNA out of one mosquito. If you can figure it out, you let me know. So, today, we are going to take another look at market watches. Now, we've gone over the market watch reports before, and we've added some more functionality to them, which we tend to do. So we're going to go in and take another look and see what you can do with market watches these days. So let's jump into the DeltaNet and take a look. So the first thing I will show you is how you can create a market watch on an individual customer. So I'm going to go down to Customers and Customer Center. And really, I'm just going to the profile page for any one of my customers. So I can get here from the Customer Center, I can get here from Customer List, from Leads, from Process Leads. So there are a bunch of different ways. But I'm just going to go down here and we'll click on our customer name. And now we're looking at their profile page here. And then to set up a market watch report, I'm going to scroll down here and click on Add a Market Watch here in this Save Searches and Market Watch Report section. Now you can see we have a wide variety of different ways you can define the area now. So I guess first off, what a market watch does is when you create one of these, it will send a monthly report, and you can change the frequency, but we'll say a monthly report out to the customer that gives them some information about the market that is determined by whatever you choose here. And that information is things like average days on market, average number of listings on market per month, average listing price, that sort of thing. And then it also gives you some comps and things like that, and some sample properties from the market. So first off, if I click on By Market, I can type in a market name, and that would be like a city, a zip code, a school district, anything like that. So if I type in just Canton for a city name, it'll bring up my autocompleter, and I can select the one that I want. And that's the market that this report will be attached to. Now I'll just go down here and close this one. Now I can also do this by radius, so that'll load up a map, and then I choose where the center of the circle shows up and how big I want the radius to be. So you can see I've got this big circle here that I can drag around if I can grab it. There we go. So drag around my circle, make my circle smaller, and I can define my market that way. And the next one I can do is I can say by area. So if I click on that one, this is very similar to the radius one, but in this case I'm actually defining it by a polygon. So I'll just click where I want to put a pin, and that'll make my shape. I've made a ridiculous looking shape, but if you want a less ridiculous shape, normally what you'll do with this is you'll go down and define it by the by a specific neighborhood. So I could just go ahead and draw my box around a neighborhood. And you can set it up that way. And the next option we have here is I can do by boundary. So if I click on boundary, I can now select from some of the boundaries that we have data for in our system. So I'll say boundary type. Let's say I want to do school attendance zones. Now it loads up the kind of boundaries that'll show up in this map, or the kind of areas that'll show up in this map. And we'll say I want to do Avondale Elementary School. So I'll click on that, and it loads up the attendance zone. So now that's the market for that elementary school attendance zone. So that is pretty cool. And then the next thing you can do here is you can say by predefined. So what these are is if the company has added some predefined areas. So let's say there are map boundaries for areas that we don't have data for, and all of our data is coming from like census data for that stuff. So actually, no, that's not census data. It's anyway, boundary data, like government boundary data. But let's say there's a market that we don't have defined that way, or it's just something that you know locally in your area that like a subdivision, not really a subdivision, but say a collection of subdivisions, for example, and those aren't defined separately in government data, but they're often considered kind of part of the same thing in your area. The company can go in and draw a box around all those and create this custom boundary area. And then once they've created it, you can use this predefined area to go in and add these custom boundary areas as your market watch area. So we'll close out of that. Now I'll go ahead and I'll create one. We'll just do by market just for simplicity's sake. And you can see the other options we have here. We can set the date that this begins sending. So right now it'll set it as the current date by default, but I can change that if I want. So if I don't want this to start going out until the end of next week, I'll select that. I can set an expiration date if I don't want this to keep going out indefinitely. So let's say I want to send them out for a year. I can move this out here to next June. There we go. Let's say I wanted to run out to June 1st of next year, so I can set that up. I can give this a name. And then I can go down here and I can define various listing criteria. So I can choose what kind of property types will be included in the market watch. I can restrict this based on price, bedrooms, bathrooms, things like that. And the whole idea is that you're narrowing down the market watch data to more closely match what the customer you're sending it to is looking for or is interested in. And then lastly, I can use this slider down here to affect how far back it's going to look for listings as far as when they were updated. This is primarily like a sold listings tool. The idea is if you have sold listings data, that will show up on these reports. And let's say I don't want data from, if we've got 3 years worth of solds data, I don't want that data that's that old showing up in the report. So I can limit this to say, only updated in the last 30 days. So that way, I'll only get listings that have sold within the last 30 days as far as the sold listings go. For currently on the market listings, it'll actually ignore this updated number. That way, if it's on the market, it can be included in the report no matter what. But if it's sold, it's only looking at stuff sold recently. So once you have this set up the way you want, and I'll switch that back to no limit, you just click on done, and that creates your market watch. Now what that is a market watch just specifically for this customer. And now you can see here it is in our little box over here. It gives you some information about the market watch, when it starts, when it ends. You can choose whether or not you want to be copied on this market watch, and you can also change the frequency. So monthly by default, but you can see the other frequencies you can choose from here as far as how often the system will generate this and send it out to your customer. Now the next thing you can do is I can click on edit to go back in and make changes. I can delete this market watch, I can preview it, or I can send it. Now if I click on preview, I have a new option available with these. So not only can I send out a preview email for this if I wanted to see what this market watch will look like in email, I can click in browser to actually preview it right in my browser. Or now, a new feature we've added, I can click on print, and this will generate a printable version of this market watch. So in this case, we're dealing with test data, so it might take a minute to load here. But once this loads up, it'll actually load up a PDF, I believe, that you can either download or you can print out. Here we are. So it loaded up our PDF, and this is meant to be a printable version of this market watch report, or the data that would go in the market watch report. So you can see that basic information shows up here, and because it loaded up as a PDF, I can go up here and I can download it to take it to a print shop or however I'd like to do that, or I can just click on print and I can print this off. Now this is, like I said, specifically the printable market watch. If I want to preview this in the browser, we'll let it think about it there for a moment. This is the version that would be emailed. And you can take a look. There's some more information here, plus the sample properties and everything go on here. All of the sample property information and all that stuff is more pertinent on an emailed report than a printed one, because you can click on all these to go through to your website and see the details on these listings. For a printed market watch, the comparable properties and things like that don't really make as much sense. You can see we've got a view all listings button. So there you go. So that is what a market watch is, and that is how you set one up individually for a single customer. It's also the new print functionality we've added in there. Now the next thing you can do is you can create bulk market watches that can be used for different things. So if I go down to listings and then down to market watches, we'll let it think about it for a moment. Sometimes I think you make requests more than commands when it comes to computers and websites in general. It takes it under advisement. There we go. So here we are on the Market Watch page. And you can see I have some Market Watches set up in here already, and we already have some options for these. So right now, the interval for this is set to monthly, but that interval is more about how often this is generated as opposed to how often it's emailed, since it's not attached to a specific customer to email to. But I can preview it, I can print it from here, I can share it out on social media, and if I have Facebook Auto Connector set up, I can allow Facebook Auto Post for each one of these, the ones that I want to allow, and through my Facebook Auto Connector settings, I can set it up to automatically post these to my Facebook page or my Facebook business page. So that is one half of what I can do here. The other portion of what I can do here is I'll go ahead and add a Market Watch. You can see I have most of the same options here. So I'll add a Market Watch. We'll do this one by boundary, because why not? And we'll do school attendance zone. And I actually went to Avondale, so why not? We'll pick Avondale. So there we go. You can see it loads up a name for this one automatically. I'll leave everything else on defaults, but I have all the same options to narrow this down to the types of listings it looks at. We'll click on Done. After we click on Done, we have one more step. We have to choose its interval, so we can leave that on quarterly and hit Create Market Watch. And now here is my Avondale Market Watch. Now you can see I have to preview it once to generate the initial one before I can share it out, or before Facebook Auto Connector will share it out. So I'll go ahead and preview it. So there we are. That's my Market Watch. All the data is generated for it, and now it will automatically regenerate that Market Watch quarterly. I lost my page though, so let's go back down to Listings and Market Watches. There we go. So now the next feature I have here is if I click this little plus sign, you can see I have some additional options here. Now those options will actually be displayed in this bar depending on how wide your browser window is, but because we have everything kind of blown up for Tech Tuesday, it compresses them under here. And the whole idea there is everything's mobile responsive, so it'll automatically compress things into this plus menu for narrower browser windows. That way if you're viewing it on mobile, you can just expand things downward. So the first things I have here is I can edit or I can delete this particular Market Watch report. And our new feature, I can also add this to specific customers. So if I click on Add, this is going to load up this customer box, and now what I can do is I can type in the name of a customer I want to add this to, or I can type in the name of a group I want to add this to. I actually don't know if I have any groups in here. Oh, there we go. Look at that, Group B. So I can type in the name of any of my customers or groups and then select them from that autocompleter, and then what this is going to do is copy this Market Watch and add it onto each of these customers. So the cool thing there is I can create a Market Watch for an area that I will commonly have customers interested in with all the criteria all pre-set up, and then I can add it to an entire group of customers all at once. So it saves me going in and doing them individually when I can just attach them to everybody. The one word of warning about this is that when you do create this, what it does is it creates a copy of this Market Watch and attaches it to each of those customers. So once it's attached, you can't go back in here and change it on all of them at once. Because it's just a copy on each of the customers. It'll take your initial settings here, it'll put them all in place on those customers, but then if you want to modify them per customer, you have to go into that customer's profile page and make the changes there, because this Market Watch will then show up in that Save Searches and Market Watches widget on the customer profile page. So there you have it. Once you have this set up, you just click Done. It successfully adds it to all those customers, and at that point, the Market Watch will start going out quarterly to all of those customers. And all you had to do is set it up in one place and attach to all of them. So there you go. So that is our new additions to the Market Watch, or those are our new additions to the Market Watch report system. As always, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to send an email into support@deltagroup.com or give us a call, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you need or walk you through any of the systems that you'd like to go through. If there's anything you need, feel free to comment on the videos as well, or if you have any suggestions for new videos. I'm always open to suggestions for new videos. So, thanks a lot for joining me, and I will see you again next week.